Beyond Lumina, Episode 24, Convergence. Attention, citizens of Panya, trumpeted the voice of General Vorian. Your world is in grave peril, as it faces attacks not only from the Ascendancy, but also from your own military. He spoke to the masses of the Panya region through a comms link-up with his own warship. Due to this added threat, the Alliance is hereby taking wartime command over the Panya region, as all other major regions have fallen to our enemies. We caution all citizens to remain in their own cities and return to their homes when night comes for your own safety. An ongoing firefight is taking place not far from here in the canyons. We can only ensure your protection if you stay within your cities. If you're in the country, please try to find friends or relatives within the cities to help you. All off-world business will fall on the Alliance now, until the crisis has finally passed. All Aetherium manufacturing will likewise be overseen by the Free World Alliance military. All further information will be received through your news network. Remain safe, and do not fear. Together we will defeat these ruthless invaders and rescue your planet. Worry and panic gripped the folks of Panya, despite the General's heartfelt closing words. Ravina was one of the minority of Alliance worlds that still had a large portion of its citizenry living outside of city structures. Here too, in another evacuation site like Kostia, mass chaos quickly ensued, as those people who still remained on Ravina fought for what little food and supplies still remained on world, ever since the first attack. Little aid had in fact reached the citizens of Panya. Kronis had even bigger things to deal with. Malun glanced at her commander, Ravim, with anticipation. Everything was turned upside down. She knew the truth now. Ravim told her that there was much more happening in reality than she could have imagined. The Ascendancy was not their primary enemy, nor were they an enemy at all, except inasmuch as some, if not many, members of both it and the Alliance were not truly working on the side of justice. She understood that an even greater enemy lurked beneath the surface, and thus an equally secret force was necessary to combat it. It did, however, make it almost impossible for her to tell friend from foe. On that, she had to trust Ravim fully. "Sir, what are our orders now if we aren't retaliating against Bikron?" Malun asked the Sergeant Major after General Vorian's announcement was finished. "Will we be sent to the battle at the canyons?" "No," Ravim replied, not sounding concerned at all about the massive engagement reportedly happening there. "We are being placed in orbital defense above Panya. Hopefully the worst of this battle is over, for us at least." He thought a moment before continuing out loud. "But I still haven't heard from Sergeant Rees after all this time. I'm beginning to get worried." For the sake of secrecy from the rest of the crew on the bridge, Malun kept her own thoughts to herself, that she thought Vala was going to turn on them because of Aezic Zin, and that she couldn't be trusted any longer. But she couldn't tell Ravim that just yet. She had to wait until they had another chance to speak in private, about those matters of utmost secrecy. "How long now until we get there?" Vala asked Zario, her pilot, on the way back to Ravina. They flew a ship from Ni rather than taking one of the Kostian ships, so the crew of Vala, Zario, Filini, and Usion were slightly safer with both defensive and offensive capabilities. "The alignment's in our favor," Zario started, "so maybe only another half a rotation." "Good," she replied, as though she was distracted by some thought. "I'm going to go get some rest then, before we reach local space." She began to leave the bridge. "Hey, Vala," Zario called out to her, and she stopped. "Don't worry too much about Zin. Once he gets here, we'll sort all of this out, and you'll be back with us." "Thank you, Zario," Vala answered. "But it's okay. I can't keep thinking of myself. I need to find my crew first. If things are as bad as Photoglass says, they could be in danger." "You be careful out there yourself," Zario said. "I will," she reassured him as she walked away, turning into one of the small sleeping quarters aboard the vessel. She laid down but couldn't get to sleep immediately. She was afraid for her crew and for what she may find when she arrives. Without Tice and the others, and especially her commander Ravina, she felt she had no place in the Alliance. Without Aezic, she felt she had nothing left. She thought of home. Why am I even here? She wondered. Silly misplaced ideals? Do I really care about justice? And can I really do something about the evil out there? Or was all of this just for Valo? Couldn't bear to know what he'd think of me if he knew I was going to quit. She fell asleep thinking about her dead older brother, who preceded her as a Free World Alliance officer, well respected by his squad, and also Ravina, who knew him well. We need to get out of here, right now, Aezic told Jay over the comms from the medical bay. They've been tracking me. They're coming. Hurry, Jay started commanding the bridge crew of the flagship. Get us all out of here. On course for Ravina immediately. So that's how they knew this whole time. Jay, I'm sorry, Aezic said to his subordinate when he returned to the bridge. I can't believe I was so negligent. He then noticed the Prime Minister of Sor standing there, along with 2 of his soldiers. Oh, Your Honor, I apologize to you most of all. All this time you went without being found, and now because of me it's been in vain. The Prime Minister gave him a slight smile through his concerned visage. That's all right, General Zin. I'm aware of the length to which they went to do this to you. And perhaps because of that, I should be the one apologizing to you. It's because of me that you're in this mess, after all. You're too kind, my lord, Aezic bowed. It seems that... He stopped. Suddenly an alarm started to sound, signaling incoming vessels. They're here already, Aezic continued. What are we dealing with? Sir, began the flagship's navigator, it's a warship with 3 battleships and several cruisers. We don't stand a chance. Sound at every ship and soldier, Aezic quickly ordered. We must not lose this flagship, or Lumina will lose a lot more. All personnel were scrambled, while some frigates and cruisers were already manned around the flagship. These sent out a first wave of fighters to combat those that came from the Ascendancy's approaching forces. A devastating battle ensued. The Ascendancy sent everything they had in their arsenal to dispose of the entire Ravinian fleet at all costs, and the Ravinians fought back with all their will to defend their people, as well as the Prime Minister of Sor. So many vessels on both sides of the fray were destroyed, claiming the lives of all the soldiers within, and it took very little time. Soon Aezic and the others aboard the flagship, trying to make an escape from the Ascendancy forces, could see for themselves the battleships of their enemy, followed by the massive warship. For Aezic, it was unlike any Ascendancy warship he had ever seen. However, Jay knew exactly what it was, because he remembered the Scion. We need full shield power to the stern, Jay commanded. That's the warship with the super ion weapon. It'll take us out in one shot. The chief engineer pulled all available power toward the back of the ship in a desperate attempt to aid their retreat. There's no way it's going to be enough to escape, Aezic admitted somberly. I'm afraid this is it. I'm sorry I've let you all down. Alarms once more blared within the command room of the Bicronian compound on Ravina, where Captain Aezic Zin, along with Koma, the rebel leader, and Hawk, along with the other Ravinian military and rebel officers, watched as a multitude of Ascendancy ships, from battleships to frigates, entered the atmosphere above their newly won facility. They outnumbered the small fleet of the Ravinians at least 3-1, with much greater firepower. All right, Koma said to his rebel allies as they headed for the exit. Time to get everyone we can up there to help. Bo, I hope you don't mind us taking your ship for one last fight. We'd all just like to survive this, Hawk answered. So by all means, take it. Just try not to bust it up too much. I'd kinda hate to see what Zarya would do if we found out we got his ship out of Animov just to have it destroyed here. You can count on us, Koma said confidently. That's right, let's go then, came the voice of the young rebel girl, Breen, who had joined them in the command center, along with the ship's pilot, Jakal, after bringing the vessel to the bunker's hangar. Koma stopped her, however. Not this time, Breen. It's going to be way too dangerous. The ship was the safest place we had before, but now we have this place. Stay here with the others. If things don't go well for us, you can at least try to blend in with the citizens, or get out with the rest." "Are you serious?" she asked him in disbelief. "I'm the one who's been on that thing with Jakal ever since we found it, and I'm the one who's taking care of it. Now all of a sudden you don't need me anymore?" "We do need you," Koma started, putting his hand on her head, "to stay safe. That's why we need you to stay here. You're just a kid after all, Breen." He gave her a warm smile, then started out the room again. "Let's go, guys." "So I wasn't even there to help Jakal?" she nearly yelled. "You didn't even need me? I was just there so you could keep me safe?" As Jakal left her, he intoned his apologies. Breen stared after them in shock and anger as the rebels filed out, along with other Ravinian soldiers who also went to the remaining ships. She hated that Koma thought of her as just a kid. She wasn't that young, after all, she thought, especially with everything she's been through. But Koma never listened to her anymore. It seemed to her it had been more like talking to a brick wall ever since he began leading the rebellion. Breen sighed, then left the room and headed for the civilian part of the compound. Above the facility, the Ascendancy began swarming the Ravinian forces. One advantage the homeworlders had was that their ships were made more sturdily than the Ascendancy's ships. Another was that those who remained at this point in the fight were skilled warriors both on land and in air, and they were also well aware of the stakes if they were to lose. They fought with all they could muster. Azor also took the Caliber, the Ravinian cruiser, back into battle, along with his brother-in-law and lieutenant, Baroque Encore. The cruiser maneuvered through the slowly brightening, hazy red Ravinian sky, blasting down several ships on its initial attack run. It would take a lot to start evening the score, but Azor thought it was doable. Luckily by then, all the civilians below had either fled into the facility or away from Bikaron altogether, so that no one was harmed by the massive scrapped ships crashing to the ground below in the deadly skirmish. Koma, Barnes, and the others, with Jakal at the helm of the Vessel of Destiny, as always, also helped to greatly equalize the numbers with Filini's powerful modified weapons at their command. It wasn't long before they were being targeted by more and more Ascendancy vessels, perceiving them as the main threat. Ravina's notorious mountains and cliffs gave a natural extra defense against their oncoming enemies, especially those in battleships and cruisers who couldn't maneuver as easily as the mercenary frigate. Battleships, in fact, had a very difficult time fighting inter-atmospheric battles, especially one such as this where the sky wasn't completely open. Even so, the battle had only just begun. The Ravinians weren't prepared for another full wave of Ascendancy cruisers and frigates to join the fray. Several Allied vessels were shot down quickly as they entered the space above the facility. At this point, the ground below had become its own battlefield with the soldiers who had come away from the crashes. A few others left within the Bikaron bunker joined the ground forces, and the bunker itself continued to provide support. But the new Ascendancy ships were a lot to handle, and the Ravinians had no way of knowing whether there would be more waves of them or not. Pursued from all sides, the Vessel of Destiny was shot down by an enemy cruiser, and Jakal took it down as cleanly as possible toward the outskirts of the ground battle. Hawk, defending just outside the facility, saw his ship go down. "Aw man," he thought. "Guess I should have expected that in a fight like this. Feeling he's gonna have a lot of work ahead of him." "Stay here with the rest of the forces," he then said to Proust, who was nearby. "I'll go give them a hand." He then made off toward the downed mercenary ship on a grav bike, clotheslining an enemy soldier with his stun staff as he passed. Proust returned to the command room to get an update on everything. One of the rebels still there then told him that there were reports of another whole fleet of ships entering the local space of Ravina near the Cronus region. Proust rushed to one of the data stations. The reported fleet indeed seemed quite substantial, and to Proust's relief, they didn't bear the signature of Ascendancy vessels. They were ships from the Tansorian Federation world of Kithmir. Vala, don't you remember what Maltha told you?" Vala's brother, Valo, said to her, as they stood leaned against the parapet of their balcony at their Raiau home. Lumina always endowed their small city with the perfect twilight. and it was Vala's favorite sight of all. "She tells me a lot of things, brother," she replied to her older sibling, with eyes just as green as hers, and hair just as blonde. "You'll have to be more specific than that." "You know what I'm talking about, son. The only thing that matters, like she told you." She looked at her brother, confused. Is he talking about the dream I had? How does he know about that? And why is he acting like Mother actually said that? "If it's that important, just tell me again yourself," Vala finally replied. "Vala, I know you're afraid, and things may only get worse. But remember, trust what you learned at the temple, and trust in Aezic, and only him. Try not to fear, because Aezic will need you if he is going to accomplish what is asked of him. In this way, the fate of Lumina rests with you." "Hey, Vala," came Zario's voice over the ship's intercom, waking Vala from sleep. "We're about to hit Ravina's local space, and it looks like it's going to be pretty hairy." She got up and quickly left the sleeping quarters. Another dream, she thought. It seemed so real again, though. What does it all mean? Then she began to speak to Omnis, perhaps for the first time for real. "If this is you trying to tell me something, Omnis, then please help guide me to what it is you want me to do. I don't know where or if I'll ever see Aezic again." Reaching the bridge, she saw out of the viewport a huge firefight happening on the other side of the planet, near the Cronus region. "Oh, Lumina," she gasped. "There are so many. How many people will have to die in this war?" "Let's try focusing on how many will be able to survive," instructed Zario. "I can't imagine this is something any of the good guys want. Let's get in there and help." "Just drop me off somewhere near Panya, and I'll get there myself," Vala told him. "Right. Sorry again you can't come with us," Zario replied. "It's fine. I need to do this anyway." She was still determined to find her crew, and she knew by the few military reports they'd received from the others that the Free World Alliance was now stationed in Panya, the main region on Ravina for Aetherium mining and production. They also saw the Alliance vessels now from orbit above the region, and they knew that they would be spotted as well. "Here we go," Zario said, preparing everyone for the worst. But just then, the tracking monitor began blinking rapidly, as another whole fleet of ships entered local space just behind them. "What, in Lumina?" Zario swore in surprise. "You, in the Neon ship," came a voice over the communications array. "Identify yourselves before we open fire. Why are you here in the local space of a war?" Billini was finally able to determine the ship's signatures and smiled widely. "Go ahead and respond. I think we're in luck. It's a fleet from Zonhal." Zonhal was another Chansorian Federation world. "Come in," Zario quickly responded through the comms. "We're glad you're here. We're part of the group fighting down in Vikaron. We're trying to get down to them." "I see," came the reply from the Zonhal ship. "We've got reports of a major battle down there. That's where we're headed. Follow us and we'll take you in." The Ascendancy warship crept closer and closer to the Ravinian flagship, nearing the range to fire their super ion weapon and obliterate the entire Ravinian fleet, along with the main ship carrying Aezic, many civilians, and most importantly for the Ascendancy, the Prime Minister of Sor. The fleet was already being overrun by the sheer amount of Ascendancy forces without the assistance of their ultimate weapon. "This is it," said Aezic to all those on the flagship bridge. "There's nothing more we can do." At that moment, though, he thought he again heard that whisper in his ear, like someone standing just behind him. "Trust." Suddenly, one last ship left the flagship hangar and sped toward the space battle. Private Kvass was there with the Prime Minister. Just then he spoke up. My lord, did you see Sergeant Benta leave?" "I did not," the Prime Minister replied, scanning the room for the soldier who was just at his side with the young private a moment ago. "Where could he have gone?" Aezic, hearing them, looked at the monitor. "On the last ship out," he said aloud. Then opened comms with the Ravinian frigate. "This is General Zin. Come in. Who's flying that ship?" "General," came the reply. "This is Sergeant Benta of Sor. I apologize for taking one of your vessels without authorization, but the honorable leader of my people is in grave danger." More than that, you've got innocent people aboard there. I will not have your citizens dying for us, when there's something I can do about it. What do you think you'll accomplish all by yourself out there, Sergeant? Aezic asked, then ordered, pull back and join the rest of our ranks. Ships continued to fall one after another, and the Ascendancy warship continued to close the distance. It was now in range. What can I do? Benta repeated from the frigate. I guess we're about to find out. Boss? He called out to his subordinate after a brief pause. Do not leave the Prime Minister's side until this is all over, boy. Not for anything. Promise me that. Aezic looked over at the young private, communications open. Boss had just realized what his commander was planning to do, and that he was not planning to return. Sergeant Benta, he cried out, I promise you, I will protect him no matter what. His eyes welled with tears. Thank you for everything, Sergeant. It was an honor, First Private Boss, Benta replied, then cut communications. The entire bridge watched the scene through the viewport in great suspense. All ships, clear the vicinity of the enemy warship immediately. Retreat, Aezic commanded through the comms now to all the Ravinian vessels, then repeated the command again a few times. Sergeant Benta's ship rocketed toward the super-ion weapon-mounted warship with total abandon. As he did, the super-ion weapon began charging, glowing a menacing bright red, gathering incredible energy even from the vacuum of space. Just before the weapon fired off its deadly attack, Benta sent his ship piercing through the barrel of the charging laser, which ended in a massive explosion. Boss did everything to control his emotions after his commander's sacrifice. Get us out of here, hurry, Aezic shouted to the helmsman. We are not going to let the sergeant's efforts be in vain. Go, full speed now to Ravina. Vala, having been dropped off quickly by Zario, Filini, and Usion, en route to Bikaron, with the newly arrived Federation fleet from Zonhal, approached Panya on a grav bike they brought along with them from D. Now wearing the garb of a Ravinian civilian, she was stopped by the Free World Alliance guards when she attempted to enter Panya's capital of the same name. Hey you, stop there, the guard said. Vala complied. The guard continued speaking. What are you doing outside the city? It's too dangerous out there to be wandering around. Corporal, Vala started. My name is Sergeant Vala Rees. I just got back on world after an important mission. I'm looking for the rest of my crew. Can you tell me where we've set up our main barracks here? The guard eyed her warily at first. I'm going to have to verify your identity first. Of course, Vala replied. No need, came another soldier's reply from within the nearby gate. It looked to Vala like the corporal's superior. I caught her on the bioscan. Sergeant Rees, good to have another Alliance soldier on world. Looks like you're looking for Sergeant Major Ravin. You're in luck. The crew is just about to launch for orbital defense. Thank you, Sergeant, Vala responded to the other officer. I'll be on my way then. She quickly started again on the grav bike toward the temporary barracks which the other soldiers had pointed out to her, arriving not long after and hastily entering the building. After rushing toward the hangar, she looked around briefly before spying her squad's ship, the Triptych. She approached and entered the familiar vessel, and nearly jogged toward the bridge. Upon entering, she had apparently startled Ravim and Maloon, who were in the middle of a conversation and must not have been expecting anyone. Sergeant Rees, Ravim said when he realized who had arrived. What a surprise. It's good to see you're well, but we weren't expecting you back yet. Why haven't you made contact with us after Sergeant Maloon gave you the comms unit? Why didn't you tell us you were back on planet? Sir, I was hidden amongst mercenaries that were returning here. They took everything I had. That's why I'm dressed like this. Vala answered candidly, then asked, Sir, do you know what's going on here? I've heard some strange things while I was on my mission, and they have me a little worried. Ravim and Maloon glanced at one another, and Vala became even more worried in the ensuing silence. Then Maloon excused herself. I will leave you two to talk. She saluted, then left the room. Once she left, Ravim began. You've been through quite a lot, Bala, dealing with outlaws and criminals, and only Lumina knows who else you have met along the way. I'm sure there are many stories floating around out there, but you mustn't be too quick to buy into all the misleading information that our enemies send into the system, scooped up by the unsuspecting. I know, Commander, answered Bala, but I've seen some things out there for myself that I cannot explain, and many things that are very concerning. Even now the Ascendancy is attacking a facility full of civilians in Bikron, and we are not doing anything about it. Instead, we have a fleet of ships sitting guard above here, where there is no battle. Ravim sighed. I see that it's time I must tell you the full story as well. Malun just learned for herself this sad but true reality that I'm about to reveal to you. It seems the time is now upon us that will bring an end to the Ascendancy and the Alliance, and to Lumina as we know it now. Much has come to light in the beginnings of this war that will force all to choose a new side, the side of justice and order, or the side of chaos and anarchy. Bala Rees, my trusted sergeant, who is like a daughter to me, it is time for you to make this choice as well.